Welcome to Walking Tour of Japan, a podcast dedicated to bringing you a new adventure somewhere in Japan with every episode. Each week we'll travel to a different destination, from ancient temples and stunning gardens to fascinating cities, historic landmarks, and hidden gems tucked away across this incredible country. If you're gearing up for your own trip, head over to northstartravelers.com where you'll find gear recommendations to help you travel smarter, plus a full list of our other podcast shows covering destinations around the world. If you love discovering new places and planning your next adventure, follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're enjoying the show, leaving a positive review goes a long way in helping others find it. Now let's explore Japan. You are standing in southern Kyoto, just steps from a small railway station, and already something is pulling you forward. There it is, a towering gate the color of fire rising up against the sky at the end of a wide stone path. Behind it, you can just make out another, and another, and another, fading into the distance like the columns of some impossible forest. This is Fushimi Inari Taisha, one of the most astonishing places in all of Japan, and we are going to walk it together from the very first gate to the quiet mountaintop and back down through paths that most visitors never find. Few places in Japan reward a visitor the way this one does. On one level, it is visually overwhelming. There are approximately 10,000 gates on this mountain, and walking beneath them feels like moving through a living work of art. But there's something else here too. Something older. A quality of stillness underneath all the spectacle that takes hold of you if you let it. This shrine has been drawing people to this hill for more than 13 centuries, and you can feel every one of those years in the air. Let's take a moment before we step through that first gate, because where you are standing now is actually where the story begins. The year is 711. Kyoto does not yet exist as a capital city. That would happen 83 years later. This area is farmland, a quiet valley at the foot of a wooded mountain on the southwestern edge of what would eventually become one of the great cities of the world. A powerful immigrant clan known as the Hara, who had come from the Korean peninsula generations earlier and had become one of the most influential families in the region, chose this mountain as the home of a god. The deity they enshrined here is called Inari. Originally a god of rice and agriculture, Inari has grown over the centuries into something far more expansive. A deity of prosperity, of commerce, of worldly success, of foxes. The shrine the Hara clan established that year became the head of all Inari shrines in Japan. Today, there are more than 30,000 of them scattered across the country. From city rooftops to rural mountain passes, every single one of them traces its lineage back to where you are standing right now. Now walk forward. Bow as you pass beneath that first great gate. That is the respectful thing to do, and you will see Japanese visitors doing it automatically. And step into the outer precincts of the shrine. The path widens before you, lined with stone lanterns and the first of many, many fox statues. Look at those foxes carefully. You will see them everywhere on this mountain, and each one is holding something in its mouth or beneath its paws. A key, a jewel, a sheaf of rice, a scroll. These are not decorative touches. In Shinto belief, the fox, called kitsune, is the messenger of Inari. These stone creatures are stand-ins for divine intermediaries, and the objects they carry each carry meaning. The key unlocks the rice granary. The jewel represents the spirit of the god. The scroll is sacred knowledge. People leave offerings at these statues, small cups of sake, tiny ceramic fox figurines, rice. And you may notice fresh offerings at many of them. Proof that this is not a museum, but a living, breathing place of active worship. The main shrine buildings come into view now as you move deeper into the complex. The structure directly ahead, the Great Hall where the deity is formally enshrined, was completed in 1499, though it stands on ground that has held sacred buildings for far longer. Notice the particular shade of red paint on every surface. In Japanese shrine architecture, this deep reddish-orange, called vermilion, is not merely aesthetic. It carries both spiritual and practical meaning. Spiritually, it is believed to ward off evil forces. Practically, the ancient pigment was made from mercury and red earth, a mixture so effective at preserving wood that it has kept shrine buildings standing through the centuries. The entire mountain ahead of you will be this color. Before you reach the famous tunnel of gates, take a moment at the main hall. You will see visitors approaching the offering box, tossing in a coin, bowing twice, clapping twice, and bowing once more. This is the basic form of prayer at a Shinto shrine. The double clap is said to draw the attention of the deity, a way of saying, I am here, I am present, I would like to speak with you. Whatever your own beliefs, there is something moving about standing in a place where people have been having this same conversation, performing this same ritual for 13 centuries. Now turn and follow the path around the back of the main hall. And there it is. The gates begin here, and they begin suddenly. One moment you are in open space, and the next you are inside something that feels entirely different. A corridor, a tunnel, a passageway where every surface is that deep, glowing red, and the light filters through in shifting panels of orange and shadow. The Japanese call this section the Senbon Torii, which means something like 1,000 torii gates. There are actually 2 parallel tunnels running side by side, one for people heading up the mountain and one for people coming down. Follow the right-hand tunnel as you head up. Walk slowly here if you can. Many people rush through taking photos, and the instinct to capture this place is completely understandable. It is one of the most photogenic locations on Earth. But try to also just walk. Notice how the light changes as you move. Notice the inscriptions on each gate's pillars. On one side of every gate, the characters read hunu, meaning offering. On the other side is the name of the donor and the date of the donation. Each of these gates was given to the shrine by a business or an individual, an act of gratitude for a wish that came true, or an expression of hope for one that hasn't yet. Some of the older gates date back to the Edo period, the 17th century. Many are modern. A gate can cost anywhere from a few 100,000 yen for a small one to several million for one of the grand arches over the main path. Every single one represents a prayer. The custom of donating gates became widespread during the Edo period, roughly 1603 to 1868, when merchants and craftspeople began flocking to the shrine to pray for commercial success. By that era, Inari had expanded far beyond rice and agriculture. The deity had become the patron of blacksmiths, warriors, and traders. Feudal lords built Inari shrines across their domains. The country was covered in them, and the head shrine on this mountain absorbed all that devotion, all those prayers, all those offerings, until the hillside became what it is today, a place where human longing and divine attention have been piled up gate by gate for 400 years. The tunnel opens into a broader space, and you emerge into the mid-mountain area of the complex. This is where the path branches and the character of the walk changes. The crowds thin noticeably. The cedar trees press in closer. The sound of the city disappears entirely. You are in the forest now. Here, at a cluster of smaller shrines, you will find stone altars stacked with miniature torii gates, donated by visitors who didn't have the budget for a full-sized one. There is something touching about this. The tradition holds that no offering is too small for Inari, and these rows of tiny gates, each perhaps the size of your hand, each inscribed with a name and a wish, carry the same weight of intention as the grand ones below. Look also for the votive tablets here, the wooden plaques shaped like fox faces. Visitors by them draw the fox's expression in the blank oval provided, which produces wonderful and sometimes very funny results. Write their wish on the back and hang them on the display racks. Take a minute to look at the faces people have drawn. It is one of the more intimate glimpses into human nature that any shrine in Japan offers. One practical note worth sharing: if you are hoping for photographs without crowds in the gate tunnels below, the answer is simple: get here early. Before 7 in the morning, this place belongs almost entirely to devoted worshipers, locals walking their dogs, and the occasional deeply committed traveler. The light at dawn filtering through those red pillars is unlike anything you will see at noon. The shrine is open 24 hours a day, every day, and there is no entrance fee. The mountain is yours anytime you choose to come. Continue up the path, and soon you reach one of the highlights of the entire mountain, a place called the Yotsutsuji intersection, roughly halfway up. Step to the left here, past the small tea house and the vendor selling cold drinks, and look out. Kyoto spreads below you in every direction, the city's low rooftops and temple complexes stretching toward the distant mountains. It is a remarkable view, especially in the late afternoon when the light goes golden and the shadows deepen. Many people turn back here, satisfied with what they have seen, and that is a perfectly reasonable choice. There is plenty of mountain above, but the density of gates does thin as you climb higher. But if you have the energy, keep going. The upper mountain is where the shrine reveals its most mystical quality. The crowds drop away, the path narrows, The forest closes in. You begin to pass smaller sub-shrines and stone altars that feel genuinely ancient, moss-covered and partially hidden by the undergrowth. The cedar trees here are considered sacred. In Shinto belief, the god Inari is thought to reside in every cedar on this mountain, which means you are walking through a forest of divine habitation. Listen to the wind in the branches. In that sound, if you are paying attention, you can almost hear what has drawn pilgrims to this mountain for 13 centuries. The path eventually circles back on itself, making a loop around the upper mountain before descending. On the way down, consider taking the less traveled path on the western side of the loop. Most visitors naturally follow the main trail, which means the alternate path is often nearly empty. You will pass through stretches of the forest where you might walk for 10 or 15 minutes without seeing another soul. After the bustle of the lower gates, this quiet is its own kind of reward. As you begin your descent, you will pass through a different experience of the same gates you climbed through on the way up. Seen from this angle coming down the mountain, they look slightly different. The inscriptions face the other way, the light falls from a different direction, your own mood has shifted. There is a tradition among long-time visitors to this shrine of saying that you never see it the same way twice, and that is true both literally and in the deeper sense. There is one more thing worth looking for as you come back toward the lower precincts. Near the inner shrine area, not far above the main hall, there is a peculiar ritual involving two stones. Visitors approach a pair of heavy stones on pedestals, make a wish, and then attempt to lift the stones. If they feel lighter than you expected, your wish is said to be granted. If they feel heavier, you have more work to do. It is an odd, tactile, completely charming tradition, and you will notice the stones themselves are worn smooth from centuries of hands reaching for them with hope. By the time you step back out past the great outer gate and onto the street below, you have walked something between 2 and 4 kilometers, depending on how far up the mountain you went. You have passed through the oldest standing act of faith in the Kyoto Basin, a place where a displaced immigrant clan chose to honor a god in 711, and where that single act of devotion compounded over 13 centuries into something the world comes to witness. Take a breath. Look back at the gate behind you. The vermilion wood glows in the light. The city moves around you. And somewhere up in those cedar trees, if the old stories are to be believed, something is watching. Now, before we close out the tour, here are some recommendations for what to see, eat, and do in the area just around the shrine. When you come down from the mountain and you are ready for a meal, one of the most beloved spots nearby is a small handmade udon restaurant just a short walk from the Keihan railway station, close to the shrine's base. The owner has been making noodles by hand every single morning since 1995, using a custom blend of flour and steaming the dough in a pressure cooker to achieve a texture that is at once smooth and chewy. The broth is built from 5 ingredients: kelp, bonito, and 3 other varieties of dried fish. And the result is that quiet, layered depth that great Japanese broths have. Order the kitsune udon, which is topped with sweet fried tofu. The name means fox udon, named for the fox messenger of Inari, since fried tofu is said to be a fox's favorite food. It is the most perfectly appropriate thing you can eat on this particular mountain. The restaurant is small, only around 25 seats, and it closes when it runs out of food, usually by mid-afternoon, so plan accordingly. If you are arriving early in the morning or want a coffee and a light meal before or after the hike, head to Vermilion Cafe, a charming espresso bar right by the shrine entrance. It was opened by a couple who spent years in Melbourne, Australia, and wanted to bring quality specialty coffee culture to Fushimi. The menu features excellent flat whites, matcha drinks, and light food, including avocado toast and seasonal dishes made with Kyoto ingredients. There is a terrace overlooking a small pond that is particularly lovely in warm weather. The cafe opens at 8:30 in the morning, which makes it ideal for early birds who have just emerged from a dawn hike. The approach street leading to the shrine is worth browsing before you enter. There are stalls selling Inari sushi, small pockets of seasoned rice wrapped in sweetened fried tofu, which is both the local specialty and, again, a nod to the fox mythology of the shrine. You will also find shops selling tsujira senbei, which are fortune-telling crackers. These are remarkably similar to the Western fortune cookie, and some food historians believe this may actually be where the American fortune cookie originated, carried back from Japan by visitors in the early 20th century and adapted. Whether or not that story is true, cracking one open on the steps of an ancient Inari shrine and reading your fortune adds a small, perfect note to the experience. If you have more time and energy after the shrine, the area around the southern end of Kyoto has several other worthwhile stops nearby. Tofukuji, a large Zen Buddhist temple complex, is only about a 15-minute walk north toward the city. It is one of Kyoto's great underappreciated landmarks, far less crowded than the famous northern temples, with a magnificent main hall, several notable sub-temples, and a garden by the 20th century master Mirei Shigemori that is considered one of the finest in modern Japan. In autumn, Tofukuji's maple grove is legendary among those in the know. Head north along the main road from the shrine and follow the signs. Also in the neighborhood is the Fushimi Sake district, a short ride or a pleasant 30-minute walk to the west. The area around the old castle town of Fushimi has been producing sake for centuries, fed by the extraordinarily pure underground water that flows beneath this part of Kyoto. Some of Japan's most celebrated breweries have operated here continuously for hundreds of years. Several of them offer tours and tastings, and the old Riverside district retains a lot of its Edo period character. With white-walled warehouse buildings reflected in the canal, it is a completely different atmosphere from the shrine, quieter, more intimate, resolutely local, and a beautiful way to extend a day in this part of the city. That brings us to the end of today's episode. Before you go, a few quick things. Subscribe so you never miss a destination, leave us a positive review to help others find the show, and share this episode with someone who loves exploring Japan. And if you're hungry for more adventures beyond Japan, visit northstartravelers.com to explore our other podcast shows and browse gear recommendations for wherever your next journey takes you. Your support means the world and keeps these adventures coming. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next walk.